NFL Network. Every year as we get ready for camp, try to come up with the storylines, Brock, that we will be talking about over the course of training camp and into the season. And, last year I kind of went back to last year's and read what I had
How did
written.
they play out? How did they play out last year?
I think they were all pretty important. I mean, the one that I would come back to, of course, was the stuff about Pete Carroll, right? I mean, last year, here's what I wrote last year. We'll learn a lot by watching Russ in Denver. If he runs for more yards, is that a statement of his lack of commitment in 21? If he throws for 5,000 yards and the team succeeds, is that an indictment on a coach that wasted his talents the last few years? If he tries to cook and it sputters, will we get a complete acquittal of Pete from those that have criticized his balanced approach? There's much to be learned.
No apology.
Yeah, I'm still waiting. That got lost in the mail. Apparently, it's coming. I know Pete's apologies will be coming in from all of the very many pundits who were so angry at him for being such a fuddy-duddy and not allowing Russell Wilson to cook. But, anyway. Well, here we are a year later, and those storylines are essentially gone, right? Because Pete is kind of in, and Russell is out, and Geno is established. Like, it's a complete, a rookie class last year. Kind of a different season. So here's what I got for 6 storylines, and then after the 6, Brock, I think you got to talk about what you mentioned earlier because that could very well become a 7th. I don't think it's one that would last into the season.
No.
But for training camp, yeah, I would say that's potentially a 7th storyline. The 6th for me, and maybe it relates to what you said about Devin Witherspoon, is that there's real competition. This started last year, but I'm not sure we recognized it until later. I mean, you start looking around this team, there are so many spots that are up for grabs. Cornerback is a legitimate competition. The nickel spot is a legitimate competition. Right guard, center. And those are like the ones for starting jobs, but there is competition at safety, at running back, at tight end. Almost every position on the field has some level of real competition. Yeah,
and we talked a lot with Pete over the course of the year, right? To kind of answer that question from last year over the course of the season. And Pete did say at times, unfortunately, with just the structure of contracts and the way the team was built. And the competition was not what it was in 10 and 11 and 12 as you were building. And it was a good thing. You had marquee, in some ways, Hall of Fame future players, but it does lessen that voice of competition, right? When this isn't really, no matter what I do, I'm not going to get the reps or the opportunity. Well, that's not the case. And it wasn't the case last year. You saw the fruit of it over the course of the season, and certainly will still not be the case this year. Will we see as many rookies starting this year as we did last year? No, I don't think you will because of the 2 tackles and Ken Walker and Tariq Woolen. But will you see 1 or 2 of them emerge? 3? Will you see them play significant roles, significant snaps? Absolutely. And that's what I think Pete alludes to with the back end of this roster being young, dynamic, athletic, and certainly pushing for so many snaps.
They actually get their own storyline coming up here in a few minutes, but I think that you're right. You've got a bunch of rookies that are at the very least going to compete for starting jobs. We'll see which ones win, but you got real competition all over this lineup or all over this roster. So kind of looking forward to seeing what that looks like. That's number 6. Number 5, who got better? Remember, Pete always likes to say this is a developmental program, right? And it means that essentially you're not drafting a finished product. You continue to coach a guy and help them get better. You know who got better last year? Uchenna Nwosu. He got better from the beginning of last year to the end of last year, being coached in this program, et cetera. Uchenna got better.
Colby Parkinson got better. Michael Jackson got better. You can go through a number of players that got better, even though for me he was a really hard watch. Cody Barton got better to the point that he got pretty good money to be a starter elsewhere. So, that developmental piece, why he calls it a program, right? Nick Saban calls it a program. He calls it a program because it still has some of those elemental, just collegiate, hey, man, we got to develop you from the time you get here to the time you hit the field.
So who's going to get better this year? I mean, you mentioned the 2 tackles that started last season. Are they going to get better? Because they were good last year. They were great. I mean, for rookies, they did a fantastic job. But are they going to start to become elite tackles? Are they going to be the driving force of an offensive line that protects its quarterback and starts to move the ball better, with the running game? Yep. If they do, that's a huge deal. If Ken Walker gets better, that's a big deal. I'll tell you one guy that I've got circled because he was drafted with the knowledge that he was a little behind in terms of his football acumen, is Boye Mafe. He was in the starting role for much of the offseason practices. Is Boye Mafe going to get better after a year of coaching, et cetera? Because if he does, and he regularly affects the game, he's as physically gifted as anyone you'll find in the NFL.
I mean, you said lineup earlier. These are like the 6, 7, 8 hitters in a lineup. Like these are the guys that, hey, they might not be Geno Smith and DK Metcalf and Quandre Diggs and Bobby Wagner, right? They may not have the recognition and the resume and some of that star power in the position they play, but you better be productive, man. You better take steps. You better lengthen this lineup, lengthen this roster. Yeah, and that'll be a big impetus of it is that growth and development.
All right, number 4 for me is we're going through Seahawks storylines, and you can read these at seattlesports.com with a little bit more detail put into it as well. Number 4 for me, Brock, you sort of teased it there, was the rookies, right? Last year's class was incredible, and now can this next class do it again? I was looking at, I got 6 rookies that at least have a fighting chance to start out of training camp. I got 6 that have at least a fighting chance. Doesn't mean they'll get there, right? I don't think you'll start 6 rookies, but I think 6 of them have at least a fighting chance to start.
The 2 first-rounders, the center.
The guard.
Yeah, Bradford, yeah.
Cam Young, I think, has a chance at it. I don't know that he does it, but at least he's got a chance. And who was the other one I had? I don't know. I got one more in there. I don't think it's Mike Morris, but you've got 6 that I think have at least a fighting chance to start, and then a couple of other guys who are going to push, whether that's Mike Morris or the safety that they drafted late or Kenny McIntosh. So you got some dudes that are going to fight for playing time just out of your rookie class.
Yeah, and the great thing for those rookies is they looked at last year's rookies and went, hey, man, this is an organization that will give you an opportunity. Like Pete did at SC as a true freshman, changing the total dynamic of college football, being willing to play young people, that those rookies know, man, if I go out here and ball, this organization, this head coach is not old school NFL. It is not sit you on the bench. It is not, hey, I'm gonna wait for you to mature and grow before I trust you. It is, hey man, go walk on the water. Go believe in yourself. Go get it done. And yeah, those rookies are going to push, no question.
The 6th was Derek Hall. Now I don't know that he has a great chance to do it, but I don't think it's like unreasonable. Right? It's not like that spot has been so locked down by Boye Mafe or Darrell Taylor that he doesn't have an opportunity to compete for it. I think he does. He certainly has the size and strength and everything else. He looks the part. So if Witherspoon and Smith and Jigba, Hall, Bradford, Young, and Oluwatimi are all at the very least with a real shot at competing for a starting job, and then throw in Charbonnet, who's going to play, Morris, who I would think would be rotational, that is every one of your draft picks, with the exception of Jarek Reed, who they said was the best rookie they had at camp, and Kenny McIntosh, who might very well be the 3rd or 4th running back in this team.
So proud of you, man. I'm so proud of you. Not only a great haircut, but the way you say Olu's name with such confidence.
Oluwatimi?
Oh,
dude, I don't even have like an issue with that.
One more time.
Oluwatimi. That's not an issue.
Just
nail it. We're all good on that one.
Day one, ready to roll.
I'm not going with the full first name, though. We're sticking with Olu.
Gotcha.
Number 3, as we go through Seahawks storylines heading into camp, is Geno for real? Yes. What he did last year was real.
Is he going to crack the top 80?
I don't know.
If DK is 101 and
do you think Geno's better than DK? Like, that's hard.
Do I think Geno is better than Justin Fields and Tua? Yes. Last year, yes.
But do you think he's a better player than DK Metcalf?
No.
That one's hard for me.
Totally different position.
I know,
it's apples and oranges.
I know, but I think DK is better than Geno. It's just sort of how I feel. Here's my question for Geno. I'll say this a bunch of times, I'm sure. I really do believe that last year was legit. I don't think it was a fluke. What I don't know yet is whether or not there's more.
Well, he's tied directly to number 1 on your list for me. So I'm not going to go into more detail, because really, if number 1 is going to happen on your list, number 3 on your list 100% is going to be the centerpiece of it.
Can he be better than he was last year? He was good. He was very good. I can't point to anything and say he was bad at it last year. Other than to say, elite franchise quarterbacks, you just sort of know it when you see it. And I don't feel like I saw that last year. If there's more there, if there's more growth to be had, we'll be having a very different conversation next season for sure. Number 2, Seahawks storyline rank, can they stop the run? I mean,
yep.
Are they going to be able to stop the run at all?
Yep.
You could make an argument they're going to be worse this year at stopping the run than last year, based on the personnel they have.
I can't. I can't make that argument.
Yeah, you could.
No, I could
Yeah,
not.
you could.
With L.J. Collier and Shelby Harris, I can't do that.
Really?
Nope. Mm-mm.
With a Jaron Reed that got pushed around a little bit last year in Green Bay, losing Al Harris, who was your best
Al Woods.
Al Woods, excuse me, I just combined him and Shelby Harris. Al Woods, who was your best defensive run stopper last year, period.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I could make the argument. I don't know if it's going to happen. No Jordan Brooks to start the season. Yeah, I can make the argument. You can also say that they brought in
Bobby
some
Wagner
dudes and Bobby Wagner,
Dre
and that'll
Jones
help.
and Jaron Reed and Devin Bush and your edge strength.
Is Dre Jones going to help the run?
Yeah.
That's what I got to see. Like, I really believe he's going to help the pass.
Yep.
Right? I know he's going to get to the quarterback. Is he going to help the run, stop the run?
Pretty violent dude. Pretty twitchy, violent dude. Much twitchier and much more violent. Yes, Al was much bigger, but much twitchier and much more violent than anybody you had playing on that
right
D-line
about that, man.
last year.
That is the concern I have, and I think you look at this defensive line, and it's impossible to look at the Seahawks without saying that that's an issue. I do think they've got a pretty good, edge rushing crew, and I think that'll be fun to watch. Curious to see how they set the edge. Curious to see what they look like making tackles, and curious to see how far back the defensive line is by the time
and curious, frankly, to see
to touch anybody.
and schematically what they do.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, how committed are they to this bare front, and are they capable of doing what they think this scheme can do? Which it didn't do in Minnesota, by the way. Got Ed Donatel fired and let go. Like, the scheme had some struggles around the league. You do need some difference makers, and that will be an enormous storyline for sure.
Well, and number one is with a bullet. I mean, can they go from good to great? They were a good team last year. They weren't a great team. Can they go from good to great? This is the theme of the year in Seattle sports, right? The Mariners, who were trying to go from good to great and have so far failed to do that this year. The Kraken, who need to go from good to great, and I don't know that they did anything in the offseason to push themselves into that category.
Sounders.
I mean, I don't know whether they're good or
Can they
bad.
get back to the greatness they once had?
Is that a thing?
The Storm? Oh, that's not happening because they just have totally tore everything
they're in
down.
a rebuild,
They
different
are.
situation. But the Mariners and Kraken are both in a good to great situation, and I think so are the Seahawks now.
Yep. Jim Collins is proud of you. That was like a 20-year-old book, and it's still totally and completely relevant, whether it is in business or whether it is a team that you follow. Part of that greatness, and this will be the one little quick ad before Blue 88, is the guy they drafted number 5 that they believed at that point is going to be a great one. Not a good corner in this league, but is going to be a great corner in this league, and that is Devin Witherspoon. And I said it to start the show, keep an eye out today. He remains unsigned as of now, and that may change. That could change at any moment. He and his agency could realize, man, we're not wasting a rep. I got to be out there, man. Woolen is going to start the year on PUP, I believe, and there's going to be an opportunity. I have heard that they want Jackson and he to be full speed, unlike the OTA season, to be raring to go. But right now, he wants a little more of that signing bonus. He wants it now. Not even what the signing bonus is, because those things are slotted, but what he gets in his pocket today. That is what a little bit of the back and forth is about.
I think I understand some of the conversation, why he would, want that. It doesn't feel worth holding out or not. It doesn't feel worth not showing
Missing
up.
reps. Yep.
Yeah. I'm not against guys holding out when it's the only option they have. And when you're, arguing over money for timing, that feels like something you're just going to have to accept, or like that's the way the world works.
And I know your words, are right. But just to clarify, he doesn't have a contract, so he's not Cam Chancellor holding out. He's just not signing. He is just right now remaining unsigned because
that one's a little tough for me, man. I understand the argument. I understand the inflation. I understand the value of money has changed a little bit, but that doesn't
you're
feel
going to
like
get your money,
enough
kid.
to hold out.
You're going to get your money. This organization, and that contract is ironclad. You're going to get your money.
Doesn't feel quite
just
right.
a matter of when you get all of it in that bonus.
All right. Well, those are the Seahawks storylines as they head to camp for the first time today. You can read the whole thing